If you want to buy an Apple M4 Macbook Pro for video editing, in this video I have 3 recommendations for you at 3 different price points. Hey, my name is Matt Johnson, and I'm going to cover a budget option, a best bang for your buck option, and an extremely powerful beastly option that will handle any size or quality of video that you throw at it. Sound cool? Okay, to save you time, I've linked down in the video description to the laptops that I recommend also because I respect your time like that. And I will tell you that some of these links are to websites where I found the absolute cheapest price for these laptops, so I would definitely recommend checking all these links before you make your purchase. Now, if you want a powerful M4 MacBook video editing laptop that's not going to break the bank and easily be able to handle editing 4K video, especially video that has been filmed in the H.264 or H.265 video codecs, which are very common, this is actually a really easy choice. It is the base 14-inch M4 MacBook Pro for $1,600. With it, you're getting Apple's latest processor, which is dramatically more powerful than the base option from prior years, and it now comes with a 10-core CPU and most importantly, 16 gigabytes of RAM minimum. If you remember from any of my previous buyer's guide videos, all those older budget MacBooks started with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I was always recommending that you upgrade to at least 16 for video editing. But here we are with the M4, and Apple has increased the minimum RAM to 16 gigabytes while keeping the same price, which is fantastic to see. You also get 512 gigabytes of storage on the base model, which is plenty for the operating system and video editing programs. Just please be aware that I would not recommend editing video from this SSD due to the size, unless you were maybe editing one small video at a time. Instead, I would try to keep as much storage space free as possible on the internal SSD because it's going to help your computer operate as fast as possible, and I would instead look at investing in an external SSD to edit from. I will link to external SSDs that I recommend down in the video description as well. Next, let's talk upgrades, because I'm sure you're wondering, Matt, are you really only recommending the base MacBook as a budget video editing option? And here is where I will allow 2 small upgrades, which, to be clear, these are not mandatory upgrades. They're going to be entirely up to you, but this first small upgrade is in the area of screen, because Apple now gives you the option to upgrade your screen from a standard glossy display that shows a ton of reflections to a nano texture display, which essentially removes the vast majority of those reflections and makes it much easier for you to see what you're doing on the screen while you're editing. So in short, if you commonly find yourself editing videos in bright places, maybe you always take your MacBook to a coffee shop where you edit your videos and you're sitting by a window and you got a lot of bright sunlight coming in that case, the nano texture display upgrade at $150 is entirely worth it in my opinion. In addition, for another small upgrade at only $20, I would also get the 96-watt USB-C power adapter. This is going to help your laptop charge much faster, and hey, it's $20. You might as well do it if you have a bit extra. But now, what about other upgrades? Apple lets you upgrade the RAM and internal SSD storage space. Should you upgrade those as well? And to that, my answer is an emphatic no. I would not recommend spending any more money on any of these upgrades, because here's the deal. If you even upgrade the RAM or SSD one tier, you are looking at spending $200 extra for each of them. Toss in that nano texture display and power adapter for another $170, and you are right at the cusp of upgrading to a dramatically more powerful laptop. And I do not use that word dramatically lightly, because we now need to talk about the best bang for your buck MacBook options. So if you are not on as much of a budget and you looked at the $1,600 MacBook that I just recommended and said, hey, I can spend a bit more, if there was ever a year to go for the best bang for your buck option, it is this year with the M4 MacBook Pro with the M4 chip. So here we go. For the best bang for your buck option, you're going to want to select the lowest tier 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M4 Pro 12-core CPU and 16-core GPU for $2,000. This is literally the cheapest model that you can get that has an M4 Pro CPU, but in terms of performance and power, the M4 Pro in particular is a significant leap over many previous MacBook generations, with this base version of the M4 Pro chip outperforming even the fully upgraded version of the previous generation's M3 chip that costs thousands of dollars more. So when I say that this laptop is the best bang for your buck, I really mean it. This laptop is more powerful than any previous MacBook that you could get at this price point before, and for the vast majority of video editors, this is the one that I would choose. Now, let's talk through some upgrade options for this laptop as well, so I can better explain to you why you ideally want this base $2,000 model. Up first, looking at the processor. As I said earlier, I recommend the base M4 Pro 12-core chip, and while there is an upgrade option to a 14-core, in all of my research, this does not appear to be as big of a performance jump as it was in years prior. I would expect the 14-core to be a very negligible speed improvement when it comes to video editing, and keeping in mind, I'm trying to recommend you the best bang for your buck option. I can't really recommend that you spend the $200 on the upgrade. I think that your money would be better saved and spent elsewhere. Next, you have memory, and I have great news here as well. Just like how the base MacBook RAM was upgraded to 16 gigabytes on my budget MacBook option, the M4 Pro MacBook has also received a RAM bump as well, up to 24 gigabytes of memory, up from 16 in previous years. This is a really nice jump, and for 4K video editing, I think that this is enough memory. Just keep in mind that, hey, I just saved you $200 for upgrading your chip to the 14-core model. You could take that $200 and put it toward the $400 RAM upgrade to 48 gigabytes if you wanted a bit more future-proofing. That said, though, every extra dollar that you spend on upgrades here does push you closer toward the top of the line beastly M4 MacBook that I'm going to be recommending for you here in a minute. But for now, let's finish talking through these upgrades for the best bang for your buck model. Notice that by default, this laptop also gives you 512 gigabytes of storage. So just like with the budget laptop, I would recommend editing from an external SSD. If you want to upgrade to 1 terabyte of storage, you can feel free to do so. It will make the internal SSD performance a bit faster while you're working. Just keep in mind, though, that this is a $200 upgrade, and you can definitely get an external SSD for cheaper than that if you want to save some money. Lastly, for the final 2 upgrades for this laptop that we need to talk about, they happen to be the same optional upgrades for the budget laptop as well, meaning that, of course, I would recommend spending the extra $20 on the 96-watt power adapter, and while you're at it, you need to make the decision on whether you want the anti-reflective nano texture display for another $150. All of these upgrade choices are entirely up to you, but like I said, at $2,000, the base MacBook Pro with the M4 Pro chip is a killer deal, and the closer that you can stay to that dollar amount, the better deal that you're getting, in my opinion. Now, all that said, if you still want a good deal, but you have an even higher budget, and you want a no-holds-barred laptop that's going to easily handle any resolution or quality of video that you throw at it, we need to talk about my final absolutely beastly recommendation for a laptop. So if you are someone that commonly finds himself editing 6K or 8K footage, especially if it is raw footage, this is going to be my recommendation for you. This is also where you have a choice, because unlike the M4 Pro chip, which is such a dramatic improvement over previous generations, the M4 Max chip, on the other hand, is not nearly as big of a performance jump when it comes to video editing. So if you would like to save some money, which I'm all about helping you save money, if you can find a previous generation M3 Max MacBook Pro, which, hey, there's a lot of them out there, I think that you would be very happy with one of those laptops. It would perform almost as well with video editing as the M4 Max, but for a potentially significantly cheaper price. Just wanted you to know that. If you're not sure exactly which specific version of the M3 Max to buy, I have good news. I have a video that I created that recommends the best video editing M3 MacBooks, which I will link to in the video description for you to watch. Anyways, though, I'm sure you're thinking, great, Matt, but this video is all about the M4 MacBook. So if you want to go all out and you want the most powerful M4 MacBook that you can buy, don't worry, I have a recommendation for you as well. And no, this recommendation is not going to involve you going to the Apple Configurator website and selecting the maximum option for CPU, RAM, etc. for $7,000+. No. You don't need to go that expensive, especially for video editing. For my most powerful recommendation for the M4 MacBooks, you're going to want to choose the cheapest 16-inch M4 Max MacBook with a 14-core CPU, 32-core GPU, 36 gigabytes of memory, and 1 terabyte of storage for $3,500. And I'm sure the first thing you may be noticing is that the M4 Max is a 14-core CPU, while the M4 Pro that I was recommending earlier as the best bang for your buck option was a 12-core, but you had the option to upgrade it to a 14-core, and I recommended that you don't do it. So you may be wondering why I'm only recommending that you upgrade to the M4 Max with 14 cores whenever I didn't recommend that you do it whenever you had the M4 Pro, especially because that doesn't seem like a big upgrade, especially for $1,000 more. Well, what you need to know is that the CPU isn't everything, and what matters most for video editing with these MacBooks is the video encoder and decoder that are built into the processor. And I have good news. Ever since the M1 MacBook, Apple has used the same encoder and decoder. But with the M4 MacBooks, for the first time, it looks like they have upgraded these encoders and decoders, and they are even faster. And any of these M4 laptops that I've recommended in this video should perform faster than previous generations in regard to encoder and decoder speed. In addition, though, and bringing things back to the M4 Max now, and the reason you would want to spend over $1,000 more for this laptop versus the best bang for your buck option, with the M4 Pro chips, Apple gives you one encoder and one decoder, but with the M4 Max, you get two encoders and two decoders, which has the potential to dramatically increase the speed of your video editing. And if you have the budget, this can be completely worth it. This is why I recommend that you get the base M4 Max chip, because this is the option that's going to give you access to these dual encoders and decoders for the cheapest price. Of course, here is where you may want to talk upgrades for even this model, but here's also where things get significantly more complicated than other versions of Apple's MacBooks, because you're going to have to select certain upgrades to unlock other upgrades. Let's get the easy upgrades out of the way first, though. If you want the nano texture display, that's still a $150 option and completely up to you. Likewise, if you want more internal storage, the good news is that Apple now gives you a 1TB internal SSD by default with the M4 Max. But if you want to upgrade it to 2TB or more, you can feel free to. Just know that these prices drive up the cost of your laptop dramatically. And if you can get away with using an external SSD, I would stick with the 1TB SSD size, especially if you want to make other upgrades to your laptop. Next, let's get more complicated, because here's where I think most video editors are going to get hung up. By default, the M4 Max is going to give you 36 gigabytes of memory, which I would say is fine for 4K, 6K, even 8K resolution projects, as long as they are smaller, shorter video projects. But once you start working on larger video editing projects, that's commonly where you can find your laptop running out of memory, and one of the main reasons that I personally upgraded my video editing desktop to 64 gigabytes of memory. But unfortunately, selecting 64 or even 48 gigabytes of memory on the new M4 MacBook Pros is not an option with the base M4 Max MacBook. These upgrades are locked behind you upgrading the CPU. So an upgrade to 48 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes of memory is not $200 or $400 for the M4 Max, because you have to first upgrade the CPU to the most powerful option for an additional $300. So if you want 64 gigabytes of memory, which I think is really the sweet spot for high-end video editing, you're going to need to spend at minimum another $700, bringing the total cost of this laptop up to $4,200. Isn't that wild? So to be clear, if you are commonly editing 6K or 8K raw videos, I would start by looking at the base M4 Max MacBook at $3,500, as that will give you the dual encoder and decoder options that you're needing. And as long as you're not editing larger video projects, you should be fine. But that said, if you commonly find yourself editing videos at these larger resolutions, and you're editing much longer videos, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour in length, etc., where the project sizes get really big and you're needing to multitask and have multiple programs open at the same time, and you're pushing the computer really hard, that is where this upgrade to 64 gigabytes of RAM is worth it, in my opinion. Alternatively, though, like I've said repeatedly through this video, I'm trying to help you save money. And like I said when I was starting to talk about this most powerful video editing MacBook option, if you want to save potentially a very significant amount of money and still get a laptop that performs almost as well as the M4 Max, I would definitely look at the M3 Max, as that laptop is going to come very close in performance, but should be a cheaper price. Remember, all these laptops that I recommend are linked down in the video description for you to check out, as well as any accessories that I recommend for them, including external SSDs for editing, etc. I will also link down in the description to my Edit Videos Like a Pro guide. This guide is going to show you some of the most important things that took me years to learn as a video editor, and regardless of which editing software that you use, I know these tips are going to help make you a better video editor as well. You can check out this guide completely for free at the link down in the video description. Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe if you would like to see more videos about video editing in the future, and have a great day.